The twin suns of Kareth burned low over the wasteland when Captain Marcus Thorne found her among the twisted metal and smoke. He had been tracking salvage coordinates when a scanner picked up the faint biosign pulsing beneath a collapsed transport hull. Marcus was 53 years old with weathered skin and tired eyes that had seen too many wars. He had stopped believing in miracles somewhere between his second divorce and his third tour of duty. But when he cleared away the debris and saw her lying there, his breath caught in his throat, she was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin was the pale blue of deep ocean ice, and her hair fell in silver, white waves across her shoulders. She wore armor that looked grown rather than forged, with patterns that seemed to shift and breathe. Her eyes, when they fluttered open, were violet and filled with pain. She tried to speak, but only managed a weak sound that might have been a name or a prayer. Marcus knew enough about alien physiology to recognize hypothermia, even in a species he had never encountered. Her body temperature was dropping fast, and the desert cold that came with nightfall on Kareth would finish what the crash had started. He pulled off his thermal jacket without thinking and wrapped it around her shoulders. Then he gathered her into his arms, feeling how light she was, how fragile despite the armor. Her head fell against his chest, and he could feel her shivering. Marcus carried her to his rover and cranked the heat to maximum. He gave her water and synthetic nutrient paste from his emergency supplies. She took small sips and watched him with those incredible violet eyes. As the hours passed and warmth returned to her body, she began to speak. Her voice was musical with an accent that reminded him of wind chimes. Her name was Lyria, and she was a navigator from a world called Thessera, where oceans covered everything and the sky was always gray. She had been transporting medical supplies to a colony when pirates ambushed her convoy. Her ship went down, and everyone else died on impact. She had crawled from the wreckage, expecting to die alone under alien stars. Marcus told her about Earth, about the green hills of Ireland where he grew up, and the mountains of Colorado where he learned to fly. He told her about his daughter who stopped calling after the divorce, and his son who joined the merchant marines against his advice. He told her things he had not said out loud in years. Lyria listened with an attention that felt like being truly seen for the first time in decades. She told him about Thessera, about cities that floated on the waves and gardens that grew beneath the surface. She told him about her partner who died in the war and her sister who raised her children, because Lyria was always traveling, always running. She told him she had been tired long before the crash. They stayed in that rover for 3 days, waiting for the rescue beacon to reach friendly ears. Marcus shared his rations and his stories and the warmth of his presence. Lyria shared her memories and her sadness and something else. On the second night, she touched his hand, and he felt a strange tingling sensation run up his arm. She pulled back quickly, looking frightened. Marcus asked what was wrong. Lyria explained that her people had a gift and a curse. They could share their life force with others, but once the bond was made, it could not be broken. The warmth she felt from him was not just physical. It was the warmth of a good soul, and it called to something deep inside her. Without meaning to, without even knowing, she had begun the bonding process. Marcus should have been afraid. Instead, he felt a curious sense of peace. He asked what would happen if the bond completed. Lyria said they would be connected. She would share her remaining years with him, and he would share his with her. For her people who lived perhaps 30 human years, it was a sacred act done only with life mates. But she was 42 in human years, and had perhaps a decade left. For Marcus, it would mean giving up years he might have had. He looked at this strange, beautiful being who had crashed into his life like a meteor. He thought about all the years he had wasted on bitterness and regret. He thought about his daughter and his son, and all the words he had never said. Then he took Lyria's hand and held it tight. He told her he had been alone for too long. He told her that maybe some connections were worth any price. He told her yes, The bond completed in a rush of sensation that left them both breathless. Marcus felt her presence in his mind like a second heartbeat. Lyria felt his strength and kindness wrapping around her like armor. When the rescue ship finally arrived, they found Marcus and Lyria sitting together watching the twin suns rise. The medics wanted to separate them, but Lyria explained about the bond. The captain of the rescue vessel was a Thessaran elder who wept when she understood what had happened. She said it had been generations since one of their people bonded with an outsider. She said it was a gift and a blessing. Marcus and Lyria returned to Earth together. He introduced her to his daughter and his son, who were shocked and then cautiously welcoming. Lyria helped him rebuild those bridges with her gentle wisdom and her ability to see the good in people. Marcus helped Lyria find peace with her past and purpose in her present. They bought a small house by the ocean where she could hear the waves. They traveled together to places neither had seen. They learned each other's languages and customs and dreams. They grew old together in the way that bonded pairs do, with grace and gratitude. On quiet nights, Marcus would hold her hand and remember the wasteland and the wreckage. He would remember the moment he chose connection over isolation. Lyria would rest her head on his shoulder and remember the warmth that saved her life. She would remember the human who offered his heat and his heart. They had perhaps 15 years together before age claimed them both. But they were 15 years filled with love and laughter and the deep contentment of two souls who found each other against all odds. Some bonds are forged in fire. Some are born in the cold spaces between stars. And some begin beside wreckage in the desert with an offer of warmth that becomes an offer forever.